Please, permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 132 of Matterhorn Mondays, coming to you guys live here from the Outpost. I am your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I guess I'm your temporary, that'll be kind of my title. You know, I overstepped I crossed the line, shall we say, at the beginning, about a month ago. I'm your temporary co-host for today, Jeremy.
Yeah, guys, Alex is sadly not with us once again. He should be back next week, but for now, Jeremy and I will be taking over the show, everybody. And as you all know, links to all the Twitters, all the social media, you guys know the deal, will be down in the description below. And if you guys would like to be wished a happy birthday live on the stream, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description below, submitting your name and the birthday to the Google form, and we'll add it to our birthday calendar here. I wish I could count how many birthdays we have. We have at least 15 for each month, so do the math if you guys want, but we do have a handful of birthdays this week. Starting last week, this was just submitted after we recorded the episode. So on the 15th, Wednesday the 15th of April, happy birthday to Mr. Jeff D. So yeah, have a happy belated birthday, I guess. And actually this week as well, Tuesday the 21st, Sarah Palm's birthday, who I believe is in the chat, or was in the chat when we started the episode. So happy birthday to you, Miss Sarah. And guys, on the 23rd of April, it's my birthday, you guys. Isn't that fancy?
Hey!
I'm going to be 13, guys. Finally old enough to drive. I'm excited. Just kidding. I'll be 22. Isn't that crazy? 22 years old. Not 13,
22. Yeah, wow. I'm 25. So it goes by fast.
It really does. So one day I'll catch up to Jeremy. We'll be even in birthdays here in a couple of years. We'll both be 25, right? Something
no,
like
I
that.
think that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. Probably not. Well, anyways, happy birthday to everybody who did not submit your birthday. And as well, again, happy belated birthday to Mr. Jeff D. last week on the 15th. And like I said, link down in the description below if you'd like to be wished a happy birthday. And as always, you guys, 575-386-5814 will be the number to dial the voicemail number. If you guys would like to leave your opinion on any of the topics we're talking about, go ahead and ring up that number again, 575-386-5814. Very excited to hear what your guys' thoughts are on all the topics.
This is a very special week. This is a very special week because it is a requirement. If you've never called in before, and you're watching, it's mandatory. So
it
pick
is.
up the phone.
Yeah, you guys will be banned from watching if you don't. Well, we know, you guys. YouTube just put out new tools for us to know. Again, 575-386-5814. I believe we have one voicemail to get to that was left yesterday on Saturday, so very excited to listen to that one. We'll get into that here after we finish these, I guess you could call them morning announcements, like they do, in high school or middle school when they do the announcements, whatever. Anyways.
Yeah, but we don't do the Pledge of Allegiance first. We just go right into the announcement.
Exactly. But you guys know what time it is. It's time for everybody's favorite segment, Matt Snaps.
A whole wide world of knowledge awaits underneath the cap. It's once again time this week for Matterhorn Night Snaps.
Snapple isn't carbonated, right? So I can shake it with no consequences? I'm pretty sure.
I shake Snapple all the time. I'm not kidding. I do. So you're fine.
It's probably a good thing to do. We'll go ahead and bump this now. I have the same old mango madness here, as you guys can see. So let's go ahead and snap this. Let me get a good one here. They've been lackluster the past few weeks. I blame the glass. The glass bottles. But anyways, if there are 2 full moons in a month, the second one is called a blue moon. Does that mean the first one is a red moon?
There's a great song called Blue Moon. I'm sure it's based on that. No, it's a great
Johnny
song.
Cash.
It's actually from, I think it... Oh, really?
I don't know.
Did he?
No, I don't know.
There's
I was
probably
just-
more than one.
I was just guessing. Don't spill. We'll be
It's a
watching closely.
great standard from many years ago. Very good song. Anyway, I'm not going to sing it.
Jeremy
here.
would know because he's
No.
500 years old. 2,500
Yeah.
years old is what he meant to say earlier.
So I meant to say 85. I meant to say 85. Sorry.
Anyways, guys, we got a great episode planned for you all. If you hadn't noticed, if you've been paying attention this past week, there hasn't been a lot of, I guess, like, interesting Disney news besides from, like, all the pandemic stuff. So we're going to go ahead and try and breeze through that and then sort of get into the Attraction Retrospective, which, like I said, people on Twitter voted for. If you'd like to vote for whichever attraction you'd like us to talk about in the following week, be sure to check out my Twitter. Link will be in the description below. I'll put out a poll. I just sort of picked random rides that I felt like people wanted to discuss, so we're going to, discuss the one that won, which I will not be spoiling. But it's time to move into
And
this.
Matt, you're gonna have to participate heavily.
I
in that
will, because it's just
conversation
me
because
and-
I have
it's
nobody
me.
to talk about.
I know. Gosh, okay, I'm going to have to actually talk. All right. Anyways, we got a little bit of time until we get there, because it's time for News from the Peak.
We now present to you News from the Peak.
All right, I'm excited to talk about this first bit of News from the Peak. New releases coming to Disney Plus in May. You guys, very excited, including the Disney Gallery, or just Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, which is an 8-episode documentary series that goes behind the scenes on the hit TV, I guess not TV show, the hit show, The Mandalorian. Excited to get into that. There's a lot of great pieces of technology that went into the behind-the-scenes filming production of The Mandalorian, so I'm very excited to actually have the curtains pulled back for that, and as well, you guys. This is what we're waiting for. May 22nd, you guys. Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair will make its Disney Plus debut. I am very excited about this. Jeremy is excited as well. So let's go ahead and get his thoughts here. Jeremy, what are your thoughts here on Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair debuting May 22nd on Disney Plus?
Okay. I'm so excited for Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair to be released on Disney Plus. This is again.
Oh my goodness.
Again, I'm okay. I think what is the issue here? Trying to diagnose this. Okay, now I'm better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try to muddle through this. Okay, I'm so excited for Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair to be released on Disney Plus. This is exactly the kind of content I was hoping Disney was going to release. I'm hoping that they took the time to go back to the archives to do a new restoration in full HD. I'm hoping that's the case. I have a feeling it's the case. I'm glad they're taking the time to do these deep dives. I hope they go even deeper because I think they're realizing that that's what people are interested in. And yeah, okay.
We did it. Yay. Yeah, I'm also very excited for Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair debuting. I mean, like Jeremy said, there have been other copies that have, surfaced. But hopefully, what was the last... Disneyland Through the Seasons was the first one, I believe, that they put out on Disney Plus. And that was a very, good quality. So I'm hoping, like Jeremy said, that Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair will live up to the previous one that they debuted. But I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts as well. What other classic World of Color, or even just a Disneyland TV show, like the classic Disneyland TV show episode, would you like to see on Disney Plus? Comment down below. I guess the fair answer, you can't
All
say
of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't say all of them. That's cheating, you guys. One.
I don't think it's cheating. I think that's exactly the potential that this platform has for them to go back and that those are historic moments on television and Disney history. And I think having a platform like this is an opportunity to open the doors to the entire Disney vault and do a huge deep dive and even release episodes that have never been released before.
Yeah. I agree. Ben said a retouched version of Disneyland's Tencennial. That is a very interesting episode. Is that the one where they have like Mary Poppins dancing like with the cakes in the front of the castle?
Oh yeah. They definitely show the very weird parade. But that is that's an iconic episode. I would love for them to do a re-release of that as well. Yeah.
Disney, please. We will beg on our knees if they want us to. But moving on to our second bit of news from the Peak, guys. Just right off the bat, I feel so bad for this movie. Artemis Fowl is set to premiere on Disney Plus. Now, the film has been pulled from theaters and will be streaming on Disney Plus starting June 12th. Like I said, I feel so bad for this movie because I've never heard of this. Like, I guess it's like a series of books is what this film is supposed to be based off of. Never heard of them before, and I was trying to like look online on discussions about like fans of the books, because when I first saw this trailer, it did not spark anything to me. It looks like another one of those generic just generic Disney live action movies that they've been making, like a Disney Channel movie. You guys know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to see like what people online, like fans of the books, have been thinking, and I've been seeing that like people have been wanting like a good Artemis Fowl movie, because I guess they're like a decent series of books. People have been wanting like a decent, good movie based off the books, and this does not, at least to me. I never read the books, so I don't get like any of the references or anything, but at least to me, this looks just like a pile of doo-doo. You guys, I hate to say it. And it's really sad that it's been pulled from theaters, but I guess it's the right thing to do. Moving to Disney Plus starting June 12th. Jeremy, what are your thoughts here on Artemis Fowl being pushed to Disney Plus?
I never watched any of the trailers that were released about it, so I don't really know if it looks like, what did you say, a pile of doo-doo?
A pile of doo-doo.
Did I make that you said that?
That's what I said. That's what I said,
think I was tuning out a little bit. But no, this goes back to something I've been talking about, like a broken record for the past month. Can you believe it? A month. Just that this is how it's going to be for the foreseeable future. Movies are going to be released straight to our homes.
Yes.
And so it makes sense that they would do that for a movie that's was already slated to come out and was already finished. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been saying in the past as well, I'm all for Disney putting all of their new releases straight to Disney Plus. No more theaters in general. But, we've already had that discussion many times, so I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. What did you first think about this movie when you saw the trailer? I think I was up at like 2 a.m. when I got like the notification for the trailer dropping. Like, I figured Disney already knew that this was not going to do well, so they decided to release the trailer like literally at like 2 a.m. But anyways, moving on from that, love to hear your guys' thoughts on how you think this movie will perform. Not necessarily at the box office, but last bit of news from the Peak here. This is very interesting, at least to me. Could the NBA season be played at Walt Disney World? This is a great article.
I did see that.
Great article. And like I always say, links to all the articles will be down in the description below. Yahoo Sports writers said that the resort is the perfect place to resume the NBA season, which if you guys have been living under a rock, the NBA season had been not necessarily canceled. They said they'd re-look at things, I think, starting in June or something, but the NBA season has been put on hold. I believe the playoffs were supposed to start this week or last week or next week, something like that. So this is a very great article that I'd like you guys to look at. Again, link will be in the description below. This guy provides a lot of great points as to why the NBA season or I guess the NBA games in general, could be played at Walt Disney World. The first point he makes, there's plenty of housing at the resorts. Guys, Disney's not using the hotel rooms, all however many 20 billion hotel rooms that they have. So they could easily house, all NBA teams if they wanted to. Disney already has broadcasted from the worldwide ESPN Wide World of Sports is what the venue there is called. I believe they've already broadcasted from there with the Pro Bowl skills showdown. I think they did that the week before the Super Bowl. Those were held there, broadcast to ESPN. A lot of I know a lot of you guys aren't sports fans, but NHL season, well, that could be interesting. I did not expect someone to shoot down the NBA over the National Hockey League in the chat. Chris, all the power to you. But yeah, I know this isn't necessarily, not a lot of you guys are sports fans, but it's interesting to me. I miss basketball, you guys, so it's nice to see these two, at least in the talks, two of my favorite things, Disney and sports, crossing paths here. So we'll see where this goes. Jeremy, do you have any thoughts here on the potential of the NBA season being played out at the Walt Disney World Resort at the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex?
I think it's an interesting idea, especially because you could keep everyone kind of quarantined there for as long as needed.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad idea, especially if they want to save the season in some way. So I don't know. Maybe it is a bad idea, but I don't know. I don't really have any other thoughts on it because I don't really follow a lot of sports.
That's fair. Not a lot of people who watch, I'm sure, are the same.
Yeah, but we'll see.
We will see. Indeed. Again, like I said, not a lot of great pieces of news to work off this week, so we're working with what we got, you guys. But again, it would be interesting. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below as well. What are your thoughts on whether or not the NBA season could be played out at the ESPN Wide World of... That's a horrible name. Wide World of Sports Complex in Walt Disney World. So there's other sports besides hockey. Guys, where are all these hockey fans coming from all of a sudden? Oh my gosh. Again, all the more power to you. And that does it for this week's news from the Peak. And before we get into our main topics, which we do have some great main topics that I'm excited to get into, including our king, you guys, our prodigal son, returning, rising like a phoenix from the ashes. You guys know what I'm talking about, I'm sure, but we'll dig deeper into that later on. We do have a voicemail that I'm excited to get to here, and I believe this voicemail, we have actually 2 voicemails to get to. I believe one's from Avery. I think I have his number memorized. I don't know if it's Avery or not, but anyways. This first one comes to us from Sarah, who I believe is in chat. She sent this in yesterday, so let's go ahead and take a listen here.
Hello, Matt and friends. This is Sarah Palms, and I just had some thoughts about how long the parks are going to be closed. I really do think that they'll be closed until one of 3 things happens. One is that we get some kind of treatment. The other is that we have some kind of vaccine. And the third is if we just have massive testing capabilities that are quick and easy that we could test everybody. I think that's what we need to open up in general. So, I didn't know what your thoughts were on that, but I thought, we might be doing this quarantine edition for quite a while, and so maybe we need to start sending in our old vacation videos from the parks, or have some kind of karaoke contest or something.
It's a good idea.
To pass the time on this podcast. Anyway, just wondered what your thoughts were on that, and I will be listening. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, well, before we dig into that, I'd like to discuss what she said there. We've never said this publicly, I don't think.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any old vacation videos or pictures that you'd like to send in, you can do that. I guess you can email them to us, ytmatterhornmatt@gmail.com. That might be the best way to do it. We'll discuss it after the show, and we'll put out an official way for you guys to send that to us, because those could be useful when we're making Historyland videos, or even just general videos in general. I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, or even that gave me an idea of some kind of segment of sharing,
yeah,
audience memories of the parks and stuff like that. But that's a great idea. And yeah, no, especially if anybody has any sort of if they of their parents or their grandparents, if you have somewhere like 16 millimeter or even 8 millimeter film footage that has never seen the light of day, and you can somehow get it developed and get it to us, that would also be incredible as well. That's a bit of a stretch, but I'm sure people would be surprised what they have. So that would also be helpful, especially for Historyland and stuff like that as well.
General videos in general. I kind of stumbled over my
general
words there.
Videos in general.
But I mean, if you guys even wanted, I do
that
have...
might have been me or you. I don't remember.
No, that was 100% that was me, because I remember... Anyways, I do have a couple friends who work in the, I guess, like, film... Not like movie industry, but like people work... Some of my friends work with... film cameras and stuff like that, so they have ways that they can, digitize that. So even if you just like to send in like the physical reels themselves to me, maybe we'll get like a PO box set up. Wouldn't that be something? You can probably do that. And like I said, I can just send it over to my friends. But if you have ways to do it yourself, that works fine as well. The email ytmatterhornmat@gmail.com. We'll go ahead and add that to the description for all the future episodes as well. But yeah, moving into the actual meat and potatoes of the voicemail. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on what Mr. Sarah said here about the parks possibly reopening?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is where the COVID-19 is consuming everyone's life. That even if you have sort of a niche show, that covers Disney history like we do, it's kind of inevitable. And there was kind of a comment thread in the previous episode last week where Alex was kind of talking about this. It's hard to not talk about this because it actually does affect even a niche topical show regarding Disney history, since we know this to be affecting Disney history as we are in right now. I agree completely with Sarah. I think, listen, it's very, 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 very hard. And I understand we're even getting antsy now. I mean, having been quarantined for a little over a month now, I understand we really want to reopen things as quickly as possible and slowly start to get back to our normal lives. But that's just not... Unfortunately, I'd like that to be possible, but I don't really think it is right now. It's hard because we keep hearing different information from people in the political arena and actually from our medical experts. And I would think it would be common sense to listen to the medical experts. So that's where I try to get most of my information from. And it is true. Massive testing, and not just testing to see if you currently have it, but the most important type of test that needs to be developed for everyone to have immediately or as soon as possible is the antibody test, which will actually test to see if you have had it and are immune to it and have the antibodies for it, which will then we'll be able to really slowly get people back to work and back going out on the front lines in their normal lives, because they will know if they are immune to it and they can go out without risking getting other people infected. Now, I want to make this clear. I mean, I have read that certain counties, even here in Southern California, are starting to slowly lift the stay-at-home bans, and people are slowly starting to try to get their counties and cities and towns back to normal. And there's also been a lot of protests around the country of people saying, end these stay-at-home orders. We need to get back to work. And I understand the anxiety and the stress of listen, I'm currently out of work right now too. And I understand it's extremely financially stressful situation to be in. But, and I wish... I promised I wouldn't get too political this week, but I don't think it is. I wish our government would do more to help working people in this situation. But I did read as I start to see and read that people actually are starting to take it a little less seriously and go out. A fact that's kind of factoid that's been traveling around the internet lately is that the first wave of the Spanish flu, a little over 100 years ago, killed about 3 to 4 million people. And when cities started to roll back on some of the quarantine measures and people started to go back into their normal lives tentatively, there was a second wave that came in that ended up killing 20 to 30 million people. So we have to be very careful. We have to study pandemic. This isn't an extraordinary circumstance, even though it feels extraordinary in our lifetime, which is definitely true. There are pandemics to study all throughout human history, even recently, even in recent years within the past decade. We know how to do this. We can do it better. We have to take it seriously. We have to listen to our medical experts. And yes, testing is important. So stay at home still is advice I'm going to try to give. But yeah, I mean, honestly, and I've been reading here in Los Angeles County, our mayor is saying that it's very, very likely that we may not be able to see mass gatherings the way we used to until next year. Until 2021, possibly a year from now, which is just a realistic thing that I think it's so much better to just kind of face that reality than be told what's been happening. Okay, a month from now we'll be able to get things back to normal, and then being told again it's going to be another month. I would rather mayors and governors come out and just say we need to brace ourselves for the long haul for this. I understand the anxiety. We're going to do our best to try to protect everybody. But I think what makes people antsy is being told April 15th. Okay, well, it's past April 15th. I'm still at home quarantine. Okay, May 15th. And then May 15th is going to roll around, and I very highly doubt that we'll be able to go back to our normal lives by May 15th.
Yeah, and we're going to be getting into this as well in one of our main topics, which I'm excited to sort of dive into how this will affect not just our lives, the future of our lives, but the future of the tourism industry as a whole. So very excited to get into that discussion as well. Thank you, Sarah, for that lovely voicemail. And we do have one more that I'd like to get to before we move on. I don't think this one's from Avery, so I can't remember, but we'll go ahead and I guess we'll find out as we play it here.
Avery just got here. I just
wanted to say in regards to the stuff that we wish that we would see Disney bring back onto Disney Plus, I would really like to see the wonderful World of Color episode of Disneyland Around the Seasons. I think that would be a really awesome episode to see in HD and all that stuff. Also, Matt stinks, and Jeremy is much better. Yeah. So, all right. See ya.
Okay. Well, there's no name attached to that voicemail, so
I just come on. Just get on your computer and come on. Anyway, so Alex, the good news is that Disneyland Around the Seasons is on Disney Plus in HD. Is. You can watch it. It's on YouTube in HD. I'll send it to you. It's magnificent.
We have many copies, many different versions saved in our personal archives for the channel that we're happy to send to you guys. But is that illegal to say that? That's technically...
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. Subscribe to Disney Plus, $6.99 a month. You can watch Disneyland Around the Seasons in HD.
There it is. There it is. Disney Plus, you guys. I wish we could just sort of release all the I guess I've done that a few times in the past with the copies that we have of the opening day broadcast, which I think the copy that we have on our channel is the highest quality of any on YouTube, from what I've seen, unless...
Yes and no. No. I think there have been... Wait, which one are you talking about?
The one from the treasures.
What have we posted? Okay, yeah. So basically, we've posted. Matt has. Stay out. Matt has posted the sort of the DVD rip of those ones, and that's going to be in 4. the Matt is deceiving the public. By the way, he writes that it's in HD. It's not. It's in 480p.
I mean, compared to the other versions out there, they're HD.
They are also in 480p. But that's you can't define what's HD. No. No, but they are good transfers. They are good copies, and yeah.
Can't wait to get them straight from the source, though. Rip them straight from. I mean,
no.
I don't think we can say that. Moving on,
subscribe to Disney Plus.
Moving on. I think we have this transcript for this voicemail hasn't loaded. I think this one's from Avery. So we'll go ahead and listen to this last voicemail, and then actually. Okay, it seems like this would pertain to one of our later topics, so we'll go ahead and save this voicemail. But again, 575-386-5814 if you guys listening live would like to leave a voicemail. Go ahead and call in, and I think it's time to go ahead and move into our main topics of the show, which we do have 3 normally main topics. First main topic that we're excited to get into: the prodigal son returns, you guys. Bob Iger returns to steer the ship of the Walt Disney Company. Very excited to get into that. Second topic, we're going to do our weekly sort of pandemic news rundown that pertains to the Disney Company. And finally, Attraction Retrospective, everybody. Excited to get into that. We're going to be talking about one of my personal favorite attractions. So let's go ahead and move in here to our first main topic of the episode. Guys, we teased it in the beginning. You can see his beautiful face up there. Look at that, man. Bob Iger takes over duties once again as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Now, this is I don't know if anything like this has ever happened in however the 100+ years of the Walt Disney Company being a thing, at least from the trying to think. I can't remember anything else that's happened like this. So Bob Iger has taken over duties as CEO, but Bob Chapek remains, the title of retains the title of CEO. Bob Iger will be steering the ship through the pandemic. So I guess we can just go ahead and pause right there and sort of just digest what just came out of my mouth. Jeremy, what are your thoughts, just right off the top of your head, of Bob Iger retaining or coming? I don't know how to phrase this. Bob, the prodigal son returning. Jeremy, what are your thoughts here on this topic?
I think it makes sense. I think. Well, first of all, the theory that I have about it all is that Bob Iger left to begin with because the board ousted Bob Iger.
Sure.
I don't, and which I've talked about on the show before. That's just a theory. It's probably not fact, but that's just a theory of mine. And Bob Chapek came in, and I also think it was because Bob Iger was concerned with maintaining some sort of creative legacy as in this transition period, while Chapek, who would be more business savvy, would take over and help manage the sort of business side as we were approaching what would inevitably be the crisis that we're in today. However, like most Americans, I don't think even they realized how severe it was going to be in the United States. And I think, Chapek is still learning the position, and I think it only made sense for the face of the company and someone who knows how to be CEO go back in the position, considering how, how much of a crisis it is. So it just makes sense to be like, this is not the time for someone new to the position of CEO to be in the position of CEO. So I think they're basically backtracking and going, it was a mistake to do that as a reaction to the upcoming crisis. We actually need someone who knows how to be CEO as CEO. So it makes sense to me that he returned. Now, I don't know whether he fought to return or whether it was like the board was like, you need it. Yes. Our bad. Come back. I don't know the details about that, but it makes sense to me that someone who knows how to be CEO and who has been CEO for 15 years would want to continue to be CEO to help manage the crisis.
Yeah, and this is coming to us from a very great article put out by the New York Times. So link will be in the description if you guys would like to read up on the full article, and I'd like to sort of just... Well, first of all, I want to address what Ben said in chat. They need to bring back Eisner to and form an Avengers-like team. Wouldn't that be something, you guys? Bob Iger...
Did Eisner handle financial crises well, though?
For the memes, he'll come back.
Yes and no, right? Yes and no.
I'd like to sort of highlight one specific quote before we move. Siri just went off on my watch. I'd like to single out one specific quote here from the article. Let's see here. Quote, "The new nominal chief executive is referred to almost kindergarten style as quote-unquote Bob C., while Mr. Iger is still just Bob, and his title is executive chairman, emphasis on the first word." So I felt like that was kind of a funny little quote that they decided to throw in there. Almost the phrase that they use, almost kindergarten-like style, as referring to Chapek as Bob C., and then Bob is just Bob. So I felt like that was notable to throw out there. And yeah, there is a quote here from, I believe this is from Bob Iger himself that he sent out in an email. So, quote, "A crisis of this magnitude and its impact on Disney would necessarily result in my actively helping Bob Chapek and the company contend with it, particularly since I ran the company for 15 years! Exclamation point at the end of that. So, yeah, glad to see Mr. I feel like Walt is Captain America. He's going to get unfrozen by... He's going to return as the fourth member of the Avengers team. But anyways, yeah, Bob Iger has returned. That's too funny. Yeah, so again, like Jeremy said, it is smart for them to go ahead and pull Chapek back, push Bob back in, since he does, like he said in the email, he has had 15 plus years of experience being the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Yeah, now is really not the time for Chapek to try and prove himself as the new CEO. I mean,
yeah, it's too much to be able to deal with. Now, that being said, it's still going to be, I think, a learning experience for Chapek.
Yeah.
Having dealt with it for a couple months already, and of course, I think, who knows if Chapek will be the CEO out of, in the future out of this or not. We don't know. So.
Yeah, and I guess it's interesting to ask. I think we I can't talk today. I think we posed this question as well when they first announced when Bob Iger would be retiring as CEO. Did Disney push in Chapek, push out Bob because they knew that this sort of financial loss because of the pandemic would be happening, or is it just something, just bad timing on Disney's end? Jeremy, what do you think there? Do you think Disney purposefully pushed out Bob Iger to be replaced by Chapek because they could see this financial hit coming to the company, or was it maybe just some, like I said, bad timing?
I think it was a combination of both. I think it was a combination of bad timing and the other stuff. So again, yeah, I think it seemed very clear to me anyway that it felt like it was a unanimous board decision to be like, Bob Iger, leave early, come on Bob Chapek, for some financial reason. Iger, I'll give him this. He invests a lot of money and resources in projects, which is good because it's what has made the company so financially successful in the past 15 years. Even though I may disagree with the creative endeavors that he's taken on, he at least understands that you have to invest in creativity in order for there to be any sort of profit.
Yeah.
So he understands that. From a board's perspective, though, and shareholders, that is risk. That is very high risk. And so I can understand with impending doom that the board would be like, as a reaction, be like, we can't afford to keep having that. You are more interested in creative things, it seems like. You do that. Let's have Bob Chapek in to weather the business storm. And I think, of course, what happened was Chapek was new to the job, and it was just bad timing.
Yeah. Love to hear your guys' thoughts as well in the comments down below. But we do have a quote here from Mr. Bob Chapek himself. Quote, "I've watched Bob Iger lead this company to amazing new heights, and I've learned an enormous amount from that experience. I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to work closely with him during this transition. So, yeah, that's coming straight from the source. I'd love to listen in on these Zoom calls happening between the two, happening between them and the board of directors. Wouldn't that be something if they live stream those on Twitch or something? that would be amazing. But yeah, again, love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Again, it is also worth pointing out Bob Iger is not the CEO again. He's staying on as whatever title, chief exec. I don't remember what his new title was. Chapek is still the CEO, but Mr. Bob Iger is coming in to take over some of the duties from Bob Chapek. Yeah. As some of the CEO duties from him, since, like we said, Iger has had many more years of experience. So yeah, smart move, in our opinion, from Mr. Disney. We'll see once this whole pandemic blows over, once it ends. We'll see if Chapek does end up staying on as the CEO. I'd assume he would, but you honestly never know.
Yeah.
Maybe, like you guys are saying in chat, they'll come back with Eisner, come back with Walt Disney himself, the Avengers team. That would make a great t-shirt, you guys. We need one more for to make it 5 for like a full Avengers team. Who else could we?
Roy
Disney,
Roy.
Yeah. He could be, who would Roy be? So Walt is Captain America since he's frozen. Someone said in chat that Eisner would be Hawkeye from Endgame. Come back with a mohawk and some epic tattoos. You guys can figure it out in the comments below. We'd love to hear in on that. But Jeremy, unless you have any final thoughts here on this topic, I think we can go ahead and move on.
Let's move on.
All right. Well, it's time once again, everybody, for the weekly rundown of the just weekly pandemic news rundown. So let's get right into that.
This week on Matterhorn Monday, Matt and company continue their reports and discussions on COVID-19 and its impact on the Disney company around the world.
God, I just love that People Mover music so much.
It's one of the best out of all of the songs that play in the loop. Yeah, they should release that on Disney Plus, the whole soundtrack. Actually, we were cataloging all those songs a while ago, but they got taken down from YouTube, I think, from the YouTube channels that we were getting them from.
I've started because I know the sort of the production source of where those kind of production albums you can find them. So there are some that I've actually started to piece together. It's not all of them, but of course I do have all of the People Mover sound cues, just from the Disney sources, but they're not as high quality as if you go to the source. So there are some that I have now that are very, very, very high source quality, some that are a little less. So we still have them, Matt. I still have them.
He still has them, yeah. Kind of random there, but for our first bit of news here, Disney cancels vacations through mid-May. I believe this is in mention of Walt Disney World. I'm not sure if this affects, I'm sure it affects Disneyland as well, but the article specifically mentioned Walt Disney World. Last week, Disney sent out a cancellation email for vacations through May 2nd, which we did not cover here on the show, but now this week, it looks like guests have been getting emails being sent out about their vacations being through the 16th of May. So that's from May 2nd to May 16th, however many weeks or days it is between those two. That's how many more days the park will be closed. Guests were given the option to modify or cancel their reservations, of course. And we also did not note last week as well, Disney is also providing free dining to those whose trips were affected by the closures. And I'd like to go ahead and run down the details of that as well. The offer is only valid for those who booked a vacation package or room reservation at a Disney resort hotel from the 16th of March through the 31st of May. And there are 2 dining plans to be offered. One includes 2 quick service meals per night of stay, 2 snacks/non-alcoholic drinks per night of stay, and 1 resort refillable drink mug. And those are for those who were staying at a Disney Value Resort or a Disney Moderate Resort. Again, I believe this is for Walt Disney World. I don't necessarily think this applies to Disneyland because it didn't mention Disneyland. But the second package is for guests who are staying at a Disney Deluxe Resort or a Deluxe Villa Resort, and that includes 1 quick service meal per night of stay, 1 table service meal per night of stay, 2 snacks/non-alcoholic drinks, and again 1 resort refillable mug. And those offers apply to everyone over the age of 3 in the party. In your party. So say if you had like a family of 4, you'd get one of those things for each of your family members that were going. So that's pretty cool of Disney to do that. But yeah, running back to the vacations that were canceled through the 16th of March. I mean, again, it's expected, but Jeremy, what are your thoughts here on Disney canceling the vacations through May 16th? As well as, you can even talk about what you think about the dining packages, which I feel like is one of the only good things to come out of this news story here.
So I just want to specify that a lot of these articles that have been talking about the cancellations through May 16th are in no way meaning to imply that the parks will be opened after May 16th. As in, on May 16th, the parks will be reopened. So they're in no way doing that. It's just Disney kind of slowly, incrementally, as we get more information, extending the park closures. I have reason to believe that we'll hear, by the beginning of, next month, which is only in a couple weeks, that those will probably be extended through June. I wanted to address something Tony Mack was saying in the comics. Sometimes the comments are like comics, but that he has a trip planned for Disneyland in mid-June, and should he consider rescheduling? I think consider is the prime word there. I think you should have it in the back of your head that it's likely that the park closures will extend possibly through the rest of the summer. So I would say prepare for that mentally. However, we also are hearing talk, whether it's right or wrong, that possibly mid-June, mid-summer, things might start to reopen. I would highly doubt, though, especially the way that Southern California is handling, at least Los Angeles County. I can't speak for Orange County. That it seems that mass public gatherings are going to be sort of the last thing to be trickled in, which is why there's the mayor was suggesting that we may not see large mass gatherings until basically a year from now. So I would say don't panic and reschedule yet. You've already put, you will, if they do cancel it, I mean, you'll get all of that investment back, I'm sure. Yeah. So have it in the back of your head to reschedule, but I would hate for you to then reschedule and then, for a month later or even 2 months later and have that be canceled too. So I would just say wait and hear for more information. And just kind of go along with the flow like we all are based on the information we're getting. So I promise you will get to Disneyland one day.
It's still there,
soon.
You guys. It's still.
And
it's
I'll join you,
us.
Tony. I'll join you.
I will too. Yeah. Yeah. Disneyland's still there. Walt Disney World is still there. There'll be
mass meetup, the biggest meetup we've ever had, Matt, to celebrate after this is all
Wouldn't
over.
That be something?
Which may not be for a year.
Oh my gosh.
But
I can wait till then.
Something we should think about.
Yeah. Guys, we've had a few meetups in the past, but guys, imagine like 1,000 people. All of our subscribers.
Well, think about how much our viewership has even grown within the past 6 months. Sure. So definitely, yes, Tony, I'll see you in the park, maybe in a year, but I'll see you there.
Bunny Mom also said San Diego Comic-Con was also canceled.
Yeah.
That's another thing to throw out there.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of those cosplayers don't even take showers to begin with. There it is. I had to do it to him.
I thought you were going to say something. I thought you were going to say something intelligent. Like
no, I'm sorry.
I thought you were about to say what I was about to say, which is especially because a lot of convention centers are being converted into temporary hospitals. To so it's.
I had no idea about that. Jeremy's smarter than me, you guys.
Got problems. So
it was a good joke. It was a good joke.
I agree, Bunny Mon Julie. Longtime viewer, I agree that it is smart to cancel those gatherings. So,
yeah. So again, Tony, keep your hopes up. We'll see. I had to postpone my birthday trip for next month, so we'll see how that goes. But like I said, Disneyland's still there. Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom, they're all still there. They're gonna be waiting for us once they eventually reopen, calling our names back, you guys. And once we get there, you know what? It'll be beautiful. And we're all going to cry together. We're all going to stand in a circle in Main Street holding candles and sing When You Wish Upon a Star. And then we'll get copyright struck by Disney. We have to take down the videos.
That is more relevant to what Matt and I are currently going through than you might think. To the song.
Yeah.
Down to the song. So yes.
YouTube sucks, you guys. The copyright system. We've said this in the past. Anyways, that does it for that one topic. Again, yeah, if you guys did have trips to Walt Disney World through the 16th, March 16th, that is, to May 31st, you are being offered, and I guess it applies to depending on which hotels you stay at. Link will be down in the description because there were a bunch of asterisks sort of next to some of the hotels, so I'm assuming if you're staying at one hotel, you might not qualify, but if you're staying at another hotel, you probably would qualify. So link in the description if you guys would be interested in taking advantage of that if you did happen to have a trip planned through March 16th through the 31st. So yeah, it seems like a great deal. Disney's basically giving out all those meals for what seems like free. There might be some kind of catch. I don't know. We'll find. I mean, you're probably still paying to go back, I guess, but it's still great for Disney to do that. And now here, for our second to last topic here, Bob Chapek has been elected to the board of directors. You guys, it's happening. He's officially the CEO now. Oh wait, what did we just talk about for our first topic? Bob Iger is taking over the reins. But anyways, so yeah, Jeremy, there's really not a lot to go on here other than
a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Wait, I just want to make sure what's the last. Let me pull up the notes. What's the last topic we have?
I do have an open-ended question that I'd like to propose to both of us as well as to everybody viewing as well.
So another thing that I don't think is covered, but it's kind of relevant to this because there were a lot of articles about the same time. I think I think Chapek as well, but I think Iger certainly, and I think a vice president. I forget exactly what it is. I posted all these articles and Matt must have looked past them, but it's okay. I think it relates to this though. I think Iger's been recruited to be a part of the the Southern California Economic Recovery Team.
Yeah.
So that I thought was a little more interesting than Chapek.
Sure.
But Chapek has been elected to the board of directors. I mean, go figure. He's one of the biggest players in the company, obviously, because the board wanted him to be CEO, and he is CEO. Or is he? I'm not going to. I was about to make a political joke, and I'm not going to. It's not about the current administration. It's about another administration from. It should be in the past, but
Abraham Lincoln
people are sensitive. No, not Abraham Lincoln. A little more recent than that. That makes sense. I mean, he's one of the biggest players in the company, and of course, he's going to be on the board of directors. Making decisions about the company's present and future. Especially if he's CEO, obviously, for the foreseeable future. He could be CEO for 15 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time for a company.
Sounds like a nightmare.
We'll see. We'll see.
We will. I guess. Well, Jeremy, since you brought up that topic of Bob Iger being appointed to the economic, what was it, the economic relief?
I forget
thing of
I need
California.
to pull up the article.
We will do that. Pull up that article, and then we can sort of delve into that as well. I think I marked all the things in the clip, but ClickUp as completed. I don't know how to go back and look at all the things that you posted. So
you're actually.
Oh my gosh, Jeremy cut out very badly from what he just said.
I know,
there.
I did. Am I back?
He's back.
Okay. Yeah, it's so, I mean, I miss my big, amazing, beautiful supercomputer in New York. And I'm cutting out again.
Is there like a reason why? Could you not like fit it on the plane, or did they maybe not allow you to bring it there, to bring it with you, or did you just decide to just leave it back?
Oh no, I mean I've thought about. Okay, I've thought about cutting out here, aren't I?
Oh my gosh.
Is it really bad? Okay.
It's good now.
Why
You're
is
good.
it still okay? All right, good. No, I thought about recently shipping it here, but you know, there's talk about. Oh God, I'm still cutting out. This is horrible. Wait. Okay, I'm trying to solve this. Am I back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. No, I thought about trying to ship it. This is like so uninteresting for people to listen to. But no, I wasn't gonna. I mean, it's such a big thing to bring, and
Sure.
I definitely wouldn't want to try to pack it and bring it on the plane with me here. And I thought about shipping it, but it's going to cost so much money. And then I feel like by the time it gets, I feel like it's not going to get here for a month or two, just given, you know, the shipping stuff. And I would have to have my roommate go through all that pain of shipping all that stuff. But I feel like by the time it would get here, it'll be like New York is slowly opening back up. And then I'm going to, like, my job's going to come back and I'm going to have to go back anyway. So it's just, I'm fine, you know. So yeah, that's why I kind of wish that the government would just be like, it's gonna be, you know, you're not gonna be able to go back to work until, you know, October. That way I could be like, okay, I know that I'm in here for the long haul, as opposed to this kind of game of cat and mouse of like, next month. Okay, next month. Okay, sorry, next month. You know, it's driving me nuts. Okay. Anyway, I can't pull up the article because it was spiking my CPU because of all this recording going on.
Well, Tony said in chat, does this make Iger the sixth and seventh CEO in history? Or would it be sixth and eighth? Because then Chapek came after Iger. I don't know.
I see what he's doing. Yeah. No, I think it still counts, you know, as him being the sixth. I don't know. It's confusing.
I'll count it as the sixth. I'll count it as 2, you guys. For our tally here, but 6th and 8th, yeah. So.
Thank you, Reverend Puck, defending my connection issues. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair, you guys. Again, Alex was the glue, the what's the word I'm looking for? The gorilla tape.
It's definitely partly, I think, Discord and the internet and stuff like that, and also partly this computer. If I'm running too many processes, especially when I'm recording with camera, stream, you know, and also recording my own audio, which I'll talk to you later about that, Matt.
Okay.
You know, it just spikes my CPU, and when it gets to 90% to 100% usage, it just like, I totally just like cut out.
Well, we're getting
anyway.
Through it,
That's so uninteresting.
Yeah, we'll continue with the discussion here. Okay,
Chapek's on the board of directors. Yeah. Go figure. It's great. Iger will be a part of the economic recovery team to, I guess, jumpstart businesses in California. I don't know what that'll entail. I have to see who else is on that list.
I think
if it's
Tim
just
Cook
CEOs
of
well. Million, but it's like, if it's just like, aren't they just gonna make sure that like their like big businesses like get back Jumpstart, which is, I guess, important too because they're losing a lot of money. But like, what about small businesses and their loans? What about working class people, working class families who have minimum wage jobs, who are furloughed or out of work? I mean, that's really where the Mark Cuban was. Who's a millionaire, has a ton of money, as an entrepreneur. He was I forget what he was on, but I just read this morning. He was saying that hopefully a lesson if this is political, who cares? The world is a political place now, and I also don't think this has anything to do with partisan politics. I'm just quoting Mark Cuban. He said something. Matt's scared. He said something
a lot of
about
big
how
words
like
being thrown around there.
Okay. He's scared because he doesn't understand. He's okay. He said something about how hopefully a lesson we're learning from this is that the economic base of our country are our workers, our employees, are our working class people who are working minimum wage. And if we protect them, if we make sure that they are the basis and main focus of our recovery, that it'll actually jumpstart our economy more than if we just bail out the largest corporations.
Sure.
That's what I'll say. And I agree with that completely, especially since we're learning that our essential workers are our grocery store clerks, are our nurses and our people who grow our food, people who pick our food, people. So we're learning what the true economic base of our country is, I think. Anyway, so that's what I would like to see as a part of the economic recovery team. I don't know how. Advocates for that.
Sure.
Somehow. Anyway,
yeah.
Enough of that.
I didn't read
that out if you want.
So I didn't read too deep into the whole economic relief thing, so I'm not 100% sure as to what they're going to be doing, I guess. But I guess we'll see in the coming weeks once more details are announced. Undefined Variables said Alex should be on the council since he's a small business owner. Wouldn't that be something? Alex going head-to-head with Bob Iger himself and Tim Apple. Wouldn't that be something? But anyways, I think
yes, it's true that large corporations employ a lot of people. Absolutely, no doubt. And Disney obviously is losing a ton of money, and it's going to affect how many people they can employ. But at the same time, we know from just the recent history, the past 10 years, when we bail out the big corporations, the big banks, all that money went to their their executives and their shareholders, and the working people who work for those companies and just everyday people did not see any sort of sense of recovery from that. So I do hope that there is a major attempt to obviously, make sure Disney can operate as it once did, but also make sure that everyday people can operate as they once did without fear of economic ruin. Anyway, moving on.
I do have a very interesting open-ended question that I would like to, I guess like a philosophical type question that I'd like to propose to you guys. There was this article by Blog Mickey, I believe, and I don't have the article pulled up for some reason, but they sort of detailed or asked the question what the theme park industry would look like once all this is all said and done, because we know before this whole pandemic thing shook the whole world, Disney parks, all theme parks around the world, lots of people in theme parks, but going forward, how is this pandemic going to be affecting not just attendance, but the way that theme parks run, entertainment, just in general. So, what changes could we see to the parks in the months and maybe even following into the years following this pandemic? There was, I think Blog Mickey said that there are going to be more hand sanitizer stations as well as some of the temperature checks as well. But I'd sort of like to move past that, sort of discussing the consumer part of that, because we know when the parks are going to reopen. Eventually, when they do, people are going to be coming to the parks, whenever that may be. If the parks reopen in August, let's sort of use that as an example. Let's just theoretically or hypothetically say that the parks reopen in August. Everything, from between now and then, let's just hypothetically say that there is a vaccine made between now and then. People get tested between now and then. We can sort of, things have sort of relaxed up until let's just say like the 1st of August, businesses start reopening. So yeah, hypothetical there. Let's say, hypothetically say that the parks reopen, the U.S. parks, I guess, the beginning of August. Jeremy, what do you think the attendance would look like from not just the locals who have annual pass holders, which I do personally feel like the annual pass holders are the ones who would be coming back to, who would be the majority, I guess, in not just Disneyland, but Walt Disney World as well. I do feel like the annual pass holders would be the majority once the parks reopen. But yeah, not just taking them into consideration, but also taking into consideration the people who live maybe in like Maine or something, fly out to Southern California, fly out to Florida, you know, maybe once a year, once every 2 years, they get to take a trip to Disney. How do you feel like this, like the mindset that's been going on in people's heads with the social distancing, all that kind of stuff? How do you feel like that might affect people's decision making when it comes to planning trips in these huge crowded places going forward?
Well, if I'm playing into your hypothetical scenario, you mentioned, let's say hypothetically, which there won't be, it's impossible.
Sure.
You said hypothetically there's a vaccine by August. Well, then I would say if everyone gets vaccinated, you need to have proof that you've been vaccinated, and I think the park would be full capacity. So I think with a vaccine and everyone vaccinated, our problems are kind of solved and we can officially go back to normal. But let's say the parks slowly reopen in August. We don't have a vaccine yet, but we do have more testing. We do have antibody tests. We know some people are immune or not. I think we'll certainly have to prove that you're immune. And I think the parks, it's sort of half and half. I think people are antsy and will take any opportunity to go back to their normal lives. So I think parks may not see the full capacity that they saw, but I actually think it'll be close because, as someone mentioned earlier, Florida started, and Florida has not been handling this well in terms of public health. But
poor Florida.
They have started reopening their beaches, and they were full within 30 minutes. Someone mentioned in the comments earlier. I think we'd see a very similar scenario. I'd like, just because we're so desperate to have these kind of social experiences again, that I don't necessarily blame the people who want to take that opportunity and do that. However, so I really hold the government's responsible for making sure people understand and just are communicated. Information, being informed, is so important of how your public responds to the scenario. If you have a government that is just totally not wanting to communicate the realities of the situation, then the people aren't informed, and of course they're going to congregate at beaches. So let's say in August we have antibody tests that every American has had. We know who's immune. We know who's had it. We know who hasn't. I think you can start to slowly open things again, and I think the Disney parks will probably look like very much how Iger is envisioning them in that period of time. I think there will be temperature checks. I think they'll probably limit capacity. Lower than the full capacity that the park normally takes. It'll be a pain to get into, horrible guest experience, but people, of course, will want to go. I think definitely there'll be less people in the park. Experience overall will be different. I don't know how lines or queues will be handled or how many people they'll be allowed onto attractions at a time. But that'll be if we have antibody testing. I think if things stay as they are and we don't really have any sort of rise in testing and data about who has it, who has had it, who's immune to it, the parks cannot open realistically until we have at least more of that information. Once we have a vaccine in about a year or more, I heard someone say it might not be till the end of next year. That's when we'll be able to get rid of those temperature checks. Then once everyone is vaccinated, we'll be able to go about our lives as normally. We'll be able to go to Disneyland the way we normally did. We'll be able to go to the beach as we normally did. We'll be able to even go to the grocery store as we normally did. We'll be able to see our friends and go to school as we normally did. But until that day, a social life, social interaction is going to be very different. Even with the antibody testing, it's still going to be, people are still going to be cautious because some people, of course, are going to be immune, some people aren't. So people
Sure.
are still going to be cautious. So it's really, I just like more people to publicly say to larger amounts of audiences that really normal life will not be able to continue until possibly 2022, the beginning of 2022. And I don't think that's negative. I actually think that means we have something to work toward. We know the steps we have to take to get there. It doesn't mean, and there's this doctor who's saying social distancing is kind of a misnomer. We're socially connecting in ways we haven't socially connected before. It's more physical distancing,
Yeah.
So I just want to be very clear that life will not be able to proceed normally until everyone is vaccinated, and that's not going to be for a year and a half, just realistically. So if the parks were open in August, I think it would mean that we have a lot more data in terms of testing, and there are antibody tests that everybody has taken and is accessible to everybody. But other than that, I don't see the parks realistically being able to operate in any sort of way that would make it possible for the parks to operate in case that is so.
Sure. I think someone said in chat something about maybe having like a requirement to see if you've been vaccinated or if you've had that antibody test to enter the parks. Do you think that would be something realistic for Disney to do? Because last week we talked about how Iger was saying, the temperature checks. If your temperature's over a certain temperature, then you're not allowed into the parks. You think that's something realistic that Disney would do?
So if Iger's talking about it, it'll probably happen. The temperature checks, again, I express my skepticism over that as a policy in general, because he seemed to be talking about how, first of all, people have rises in their body heat for many, many reasons, especially women. So I would just hate to see this kind of, and you would hear stories around if many different public practices took that like as a policy, you would hear so many different stories about so-and-so is discriminated from entering. He doesn't have COVID-19, but he had a slightly high temperature, and it's up to I would hate for what happens is we all become scared of each other, and that like you go enter a business and it's like you have a 100-degree temperature. Sorry, we can't serve you, but it's because of a totally unrelated reason. I would hate for us to become scared and start shunning sick people. And I just feel like temperature checks, just thrown out there as a general term, doesn't solve anything. It actually causes a lot more social problems. Again, as a temporary measure on top of proving that you've had an antibody test and eventually a vaccine, sure. But temperature checks as the litmus test for who and who cannot enter public places, I just think is a cause for disaster and a lot of lawsuits.
Sure.
Especially Bob Iger seemed to be talking about how that was just how things were going to be forever. Because he was comparing how we have bag checks because of 9/11. And that makes a little, and there's a lot of people who are still skeptical about that too. But I think that makes a lot more sense than like us now, as to use Bob Iger's words, scrutinizing sick people for all eternity. This is not the only pandemic we've had. We can get past it. We can contain it. We have to listen to the experts, do what they say. It's going to be a couple years, guys. I'm not going to lie. But life will become normal again one day in our lifetime. I can guarantee you that.
I guess sort of switching gears here to the actual function of the parks themselves. Blog Mickey talked about as well having more of those virtual queues, so not a lot of people are waiting in lines. Also sort of discussing the actual sort of mass gatherings that happen in the parks, like the fireworks, parades, stuff like that. What do you think we could see? Because I guess I'll just throw my own opinion out there. I don't think fireworks, parades, because those are the main places, besides the queues as well. Those are the main places where people are the closest to each other, where people, cough on each other's sneeze. You're close to everybody. not a fun time, just like in general, I guess, speaking outside of the pandemic as well. So yeah, for me personally, I do also believe that a lot of virtual queues will most likely be used for the attractions at Disneyland, Walt Disney World, maybe even around the world as well. Maybe, like I said, not a lot of fireworks shows, no fireworks shows at all, probably no live entertainment at all, probably, is what I'm assuming. What are your thoughts on that side of this?
So the virtual queues is kind of curious because it can be a solution, and I think it's something they're definitely going to research more thoroughly than they have been, because the precedent for them researching virtual queues was because capacity's going, there's been more guests, there's been higher demand to go to Disney parks, and crowds have been an issue for a number of reasons, which I've expressed on the show, some of which I don't think they're taking into consideration. But at the same time, we've also discussed, and many other sources have discussed this too, that virtual queuing systems actually increase the crowds within the park, because you're waiting in line, but you're waiting in line amongst everyone else in the park. So there has to be I think real deep research now, because now it's beyond just guest experience. It's like actual society is going to think more thoroughly about how we congregate and what are the more efficient ways that we congregate in the coming years. And so I think a virtual queue might sort of help that, but it also might not. It actually might go the other way, because it might allow for more crowds to be in the park. So it's a complicated issue, because one thing that I've always said of increased crowds are lack of a variety of attraction types in the park, which is not just my opinion. It's opinion of a lot of people who've studied sort of the theme park history and stuff like that. But that's going to be difficult to do, because now they don't really have the money to invest in newer experiences in the park. Now, they don't have to be e-ticket experiences, but anyway. So it's difficult, because certainly virtual queues will help people not be congregating in line, but it may not help people congregating, increasing the crowd flow within the rest of the park. So it's kind of difficult, and they're going to have to do a lot of research, more so than they have been doing, given that the social stakes, I think, are higher. I do think that the possible solution will be to regulate capacity in the park itself. So I do think they'll probably start to take on some kind of reservation system to even plan a trip to Disneyland. So no more, at least for the time being, spontaneous trips to the park.
Yeah.
I want to go to Disneyland this weekend. No, unfortunately that's going to be a bad guest experience, because then it's going to be like years waiting list, I'm sure. So we'll see. Disney has been the master of guest experience and customer service. I think they practically refined the form of what guest service is. So I trust that they'll be able to really figure out the best possible way to be conscious of where society is in terms of gatherings and guest experience, I hope. So
now I would like to move on here to some of the voicemails that people have left in regards to this topic. So let's go ahead and take a listen here. This one's from Brett, I believe. So let's listen here.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Brett. I think with the temperature checks, that's just going to show whether or not people are symptomatic or not. But if you're forcing people to show records of being vaccinated or being immune or having antibodies, that's actually going to be breaking HIPAA codes. So I think they're just going to have to roll the dice and wait till there is a vaccine available, and then just kind of go from there. All right, take care, guys.
Insightful. Thank you for lovely voicemail. I don't know what HIPAA codes. That's a new phrase.
It's the Hippocratic Oath. It's basically you're like announcing. Okay, so it's like the Hippocratic Oath, and I'm going to do a bad job at describing this. I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot of core details or miscommunicate them. So I take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But basically, it's an oath that doctors take to. It's Yeah, it's healthcare privacy is what someone's saying in there. It's like it's like patient doctor confidentiality.
Oh, sure, okay.
And you don't have to, if someone asks you, like, even because my family, we have to use these guest assistants, and a lot of times we encounter a cast member that makes it difficult because they keep trying to ask why. And we actually don't have to divulge that information. So that does make sense, and so that does make sense that it would break HIPAA code to have to be like, I've been vaccinated, I've had COVID-19. But I don't know. There might be laws passed. I don't know. What'll happen with that. But that does make sense, and that does make me think. Yeah, we will have to, as Brett was saying, roll the dice until we have a vaccine.
Well, you learn something new every day. Thank you, Jeremy, and to the people in chat as well. Let's see. We do have one more voicemail, I believe. I don't know if we've had Avery. Unless this is, I don't think this is, let's just take a listen here to this voicemail.
Hey, so I think I have some thoughts on what I think could happen if the parks reopen. So first, like someone said before, have a lot of vaccine tests. Because I don't think people would want to go into the park without vaccine tests, because if they did, they probably would start the outbreak again. But what I think they might do is have 2 walls on Main Street, like on the little road. So let's say if the social distancing is still at a risk, like try and put have a certain amount of capacity of, like, let's say one of the sidewalks of Main Street. This could go for Main Street or Buena Vista Street. Have a wall. So you have Main Street, you have a street, and then you have to put 2 walls on the street. So then on one side you have a little crowd of people, and then on the other side you have a little crowd of people, just so then they could try to decrease to at least have the less risk of spreading the virus. And probably maybe only a couple people into the queue lines of the rides, so it won't affect it. I mean, so yeah, those are my thoughts. And yeah, expect no shows or character walkarounds probably for a long time, probably for a year, until this virus is fully cleared up, that we can start doing some entertainment. Probably continue to watch the stream too, so yeah.
I need to add people as contacts, I guess. I don't know if that wasn't was that Avery? That sounded, it was not,
no,
was it?
No, that wasn't Avery.
The voice was familiar,
no.
But anyways, yeah, very interesting. Thank you for that. Again, lovely voicemail. 575-386-5814 is the number if you'd like to call in, leave a voicemail. Isn't it just weird that we're the concept of having walls up on Main Street is being discussed to help avoid people from just contacting each other? Isn't that that's just a weird thing to bring up, that we're discussing as a plausible thing that might happen in the future. Jeremy, do you have any thoughts on that voicemail before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, it does. I know in grocery stores they are doing things where some aisles have become one-way streets, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sick. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's I agree with you, Matt. It's I have some days where I'm like, okay, this is the way things are, and everything's gonna be okay. We just gotta band together and keep doing what we're doing to bend that curve. And then other days, you kind of zoom out too far, and you're like, who knew that in my lifetime we'd be going through one of the a huge major moment of global adversity. People are saying this is going to be, the economic consequences of this are going to be worse than the Great Depression. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you never think you're going to go through a huge life-altering, socially, you know, civilization-altering moment in your lifetime. It just proves that we've lived in a lot of comfort, our generation, and so things get rattled. Anyway, I think we can move on unless there's other voicemails.
I think
regarding this,
there are no voicemails currently in the queue, but like I said, if you guys would like to call in, leave a voicemail, especially not just about the previous topics, but coming up, Attraction Retrospective, again, one of my favorite rides we're going to be discussing. I'd like to just highlight one more comment in chat before we move on. I think it was Tony Mac that said, or someone that said the parks probably won't stay closed until next year just because of the huge financial loss that it would cause the company.
Yeah, I know, it's true.
But again, you never know. Disney has a lot of money, so maybe they could keep the parks closed until January of next year. Maybe they have enough saved away where they can just keep them closed.
If you'd like to see the Disney parks open sooner, and I think they're going to be working with the state of California, the state of Florida, and the governments in China and Japan to be able to somehow start to roll out soft openings of the parks with very limited capacity. And I think we will possibly see that by the end of the summer. Maybe even a little bit before, we'll see. But if you want to see that happen, if you don't want to see Disney, go bankrupt, stay at home, bend the curve, call your representatives, be active. I mean, this is something we all have a shared responsibility for this. Stay at home, bend the curve. It's very important. Otherwise, the parks are not going to reopen. The cases are going to get worse. There's going to be a second wave that was worse than the first. We have to listen to our medical experts. We have to make sure that testing. First of all, listen, another doctor was saying this. A bad test is worse than no test.
Sure.
I understand we need the antibody test that works, that's accessible to everybody, but we need it to be right. We need it to be testing for the right thing. So it's complicated, but the only thing that we can do is listen to the medical experts and stay at home.
Yeah. Well said, Mr. Jeremy. We will see. And again, I mean, just in February, at the end of February, we were saying, they'll be open by the beginning of March. They'll be open by the beginning of April. So we really have no idea when it comes to this kind of stuff. We can always just make our predictions when they might reopen. But yeah, like Jeremy said, listen to your medical professionals out there. Stay home. I mean, I stay home anyways. I don't go out to like Walmart at all anyways. So, I mean, it's just been a normal month for me. Just kidding. But anyways, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up this discussion here.
I know that. It's so funny. I mean, I have all of a sudden this urge to hear you talk about Puckermint once again.
Guys.
It's like so absurd.
Guys, we'll be getting into Attraction Retrospective right after, what a coincidence,
crazy,
I talk about our sponsors. So let's go ahead and get right into that.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear this.
If you guys are wondering where you can find even more family-friendly live streams just like this one, head on over to theliveplace.com. The Live Place is your headquarters for great family-friendly live streams. They cover anything from Disney to other vacation spots, various variety shows, and have some amazing streamers like Resort TV 1 and myself. Also, be sure to check out puckermint.com, where you can find amazing pins and stickers. Puckermint is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a few hours from where I live. And since I'm a big believer in supporting local artists, we decided to partner up. Be sure to use the coupon code down below when you make your next order. Again, that's puckermint.com and puckermint on Instagram. All right. And it looks like we're back. You guys, it's amazing how you go to a completely different location to do the commercials. I know, right? I teleported. I'm wearing the same shirt too. Yeah, anyways. That does it for our main topics of the day. Now it's time to move into the fan favorite, recently debuted segment, Attraction Retrospective, where we discuss a bit of history and impact about a certain attraction and our personal thoughts on it. We need a better little sting catchphrase, little description there after that, other than just the one that I scribbled out there.
Well, I don't know. In a time when we can't congregate at our favorite park, it's I think important to remember why we like the parks themselves. And one way of doing that is to reminisce about some of our favorite attractions. And so that is why we do this Attraction Retrospective. One day there'll be a theme song, I hope.
Guys, please, I can't write. If I could write music or like produce music, I'd do it myself. But I'm just clueless when it comes to that. So you guys in the chat, you listeners, viewers out there, if you'd be interested, you can always send over some theme songs that you'd like us to utilize in the show on Twitter. Or you can email them, like I said, ytmatterhornmatt@gmail.com. But for today's Attraction Retrospective, guys, we're going to be talking about everybody. I think I can say this with certainty. I said this last week as well with Pirates, but I think I can say this with certainty. This is an attraction that is up there, people's favorites lists. I'm trying to get this picture full screen. There we go. There it is, everybody. We're talking about the Indiana Jones adventure. It was surprisingly a runaway on the votes. Let me try and go back and see. I remember I put in...
Yeah, it's like, it didn't actually win. No, I'm kidding.
Indiana Jones, 51%, Disneyland Railroad, 37%, and Small World, guys. Where's the love for Small World? Only 11% of people voted, you guys.
I would have loved to have talked about Small World.
I wouldn't have.
But here's the thing. I'm glad Disneyland Railroad did not win.
Because Alex isn't here,
Exactly. I would love to do an attraction retrospective on the Disneyland Railroad, but I would refuse to do it if Alex wasn't here.
I agree. No. So, yeah. We'll save that one maybe next week. I'll put it back, throw it in the pot again. We'll see what comes out as victor next week. Like I said, follow me on Twitter if you'd like to vote on what next week's attraction to be featured in Attraction Retrospective. But like we said, we're going to be discussing the Indiana Jones adventure, Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, the full name of the attraction. We've done an episode on this of Historyland many moons ago.
Yes.
Many moons ago. And I even did one by myself before Jeremy came aboard. So there's technically 2 episodes that we've done.
Technically 2. I think one's a little better than the other.
Probably, most likely, yeah. But
but maybe I'm biased.
Okay, well, I figure we should start the discussion by sort of, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm sure we can say for 99% certainty this is a lot of people's fan favorites attraction. This attraction always has a long wait time in Disneyland. You can sort of gauge that as well. Fan favorite attraction. Jeremy, for you, what makes this attraction top of the tier? Because this is one of those attractions that I'd compare to something like Pirates of the Caribbean, something like Haunted Mansion. And I'd even argue that the Indiana Jones adventure was that generation's Pirates of the Caribbean, if that makes sense. How would you describe your love for this attraction, your love for the theming of this attraction, and the experience in general?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. And I think you actually have a lot of that's a very interesting perspective, a very unique, I think, perspective to bring to the table in terms of generations of Imagineers. I certainly think this is a genre-defining attraction. Not too similar, actually, to what you said about Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it combines the thrill of something like a roller coaster type experience, and the dark ride principles that were established with Pirates of the Caribbean. So I think that's definitely why I think it's historically important. And if you want to zoom out even more, I think it's actually, when I say genre defining, not just for Disney, I think it's actually defined the modern dark ride.
Sure.
I think we actually now expect, for better or for worse, an element of thrill when going on a dark ride. You know, Rise of the Resistance is a direct descendant of Indiana Jones. That's why I think, you know, that those two rides have been compared. It's the best. People have said it's the best since Indiana Jones. Personally, I think that means it's the best of that genre since Indiana Jones, because I think there are so many other different types of ride experiences to be had. But I'm not quite even sure how to define it. Dark ride, dark thrill ride, perhaps.
Sure,
is the genre.
Something like that.
But yeah, and what makes it to me a Disney dark ride, as opposed to just dark ride, is the attention to detail in theming. You know, the ride begins when you, and I think this is a prime example for a successful attraction of this type, something that is supposed to immerse you in a thematic environment, in an environment. The ride begins when you make the decision to go on it.
Yeah.
You know, when you enter Adventureland, your experience has already begun. Then you round the corner and you see the mysterious temple. The ride experience has begun. You know, it's funny because, you know, I also feel the same way about Tower of Terror. My mom doesn't particularly like thrill rides. She'll go on Indiana Jones, but not Tower of Terror. But she insists that she goes through the queue. Why? Because it is part of the ride experience. You know, the ride begins when you enter that queue, and even sometimes before. So just, it's a great experience. It's interesting. It's so many people's like top 3.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in my top 3. I certainly love it. I remember the first time I went on it, when I was finally old enough, tall enough, should I say, to go on it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. But there's so much to it technically and just artistically that I think does make it a very unique experience, and certainly expands the form of what a dark ride can do. So I don't think you're wrong when you say it's that second generation's Pirates of the Caribbean. So I think that's really interesting.
I just said that like right off the top of my head, so I'm glad.
I think
it's
a very interesting point to make.
I think it's fair though. I do think it's fair. You know, Tony Baxter.
And that's funny because does that mean that Tower of Terror is that generation's Haunted Mansion? Interesting things to consider. It came out the same time.
Did it really?
I believe so. I think Tower of Terror might have come out a little bit before, a year before. Yeah, a year before.
That's
so the timeline's not exactly right, but two revolutionary attractions, revolutionary in theming and in technology.
Yeah.
Second generation Imagineers.
I don't know why I always pictured Tower of Terror coming out in like, I don't know, 2005. I guess I'm just thinking of the California Adventure.
That's because you're thinking of California Adventure. Yeah.
I didn't take into consideration the original in Florida, but yeah, again, Indiana Jones Adventure.
Yeah, no,
for me is one of my again, I think I said this last episode. My top 5 favorite attractions always fluctuate between themselves. I can never really pinpoint. There's never a really concrete 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But Indiana Jones Adventure for me is always up there in the list, top 5, top 3, depending on, I guess just depending on how I'm feeling on that day. And I guess we can sort of delve more into the queue of this attraction, because like you mentioned, the queue of this ride is half the ride. Like you said, it starts once you enter Adventureland, once you see the temple, once you enter the queue. I think the Indiana Jones Adventure queue is the only queue for me in a Disney attraction where I get like butterflies in my stomach, just because the whole atmosphere shifts once you enter the queue. You're outside in the Adventureland, Adventureland, the whole bizarre atmosphere, you know, and then you walk into the queue. All of that is gone, and it's nothing but tense, dim lighting, the lights flickering, and just even the smell for me as well of like the rock work. It really, I think it's the only queue where I get butterflies in my stomach when I experience it.
Yeah, the build of anticipation is so excellent. And I similarly, I get that same jittery butterflies in my stomach when I go on Tower of Terror as well.
Yeah, that one as well too. Yeah.
And the build of the tension, it literally doesn't get old. I think as you get older, it becomes more anticipation. Oh, I'm excited to go on this ride. But when I was younger, it was a genuine, you really play along with what I think you're supposed to play along with in your imagination, you know?
Tony said, which stairs go faster when they split, the right side or the left side? The age-old question.
The age-old question. I don't think I've been able to ever figure it out. There is a strategy, though.
Yeah.
I think if you don't go on the stairs, actually, don't take my word for this, because I don't even know for sure if this is true. If you go on the stairs that is moving, go on the stairs that isn't, because the minute you decide to go on the stairs that are moving, they're going to cut off boarding that side, and they're going to start boarding the other side.
No, that's the exact same.
That's a little bit my advice.
That's the exact same way that I process that as well. Yeah, that's two people, both of us confirming that theory. So you guys can don't take that with a grain of salt. Take that with a grain of sugar.
Okay.
If that's how, I don't know if that is a phrase, but yeah.
See, I don't know why. I love salt. I don't understand why it's like.
I love salt too. It's because it's dirty. Comes from rocks. It is a rock. People don't like rocks. We're off topic.
Okay.
But moving back to the queue, the immersiveness of this queue, again, is really one of those where you can compare it to something like Tower of Terror. I haven't been on Rise of the Resistance, so I can't compare it to that, but I guess I could from the videos I've seen, but I'm going to wait until I get to experience it in person. But yeah, comparing those two together, fair comparison. The immersiveness of this queue is really, I'm trying to think off the top of my head if this queue has ever been beaten by a ride in Disneyland besides, Tower of Terror's gone. Plus, it's in California Adventure, so not a Disneyland attraction. So yeah, if like just in terms of the immersiveness of the queue in Disneyland, I don't really think. Maybe from Haunted Mansion is another big, from the stretching room and then to the portraits. That is another one where it's sort of tied for immersiveness of the queue. Yeah, me too. Thinking off the top of my head, I can't think of another ride. Maybe I was going to say Splash Mountain, but that I don't think would compare.
No. It's sort of kind of, but not nearly at the level of detail as Indiana Jones. Star Tours does a little bit of...
Star Tours is another...
has an immersive quality to the queue as well, but not even so much as Indiana Jones. So I guess you have a point there. I also think, I think a lot of people expect every ride to have an immersive queue, and I think content dictates form. Small World doesn't need an immersive queue. Our Pirates doesn't really need an immersive queue as well, just given the land that it's in. It's enough to walk into this New Orleans style building and then board the boat and you're in the bayou. The immersion, that sort of atmospheric building of anticipation starts on the boat. However, Mark Davis kind of, I think, pioneered the idea of an immersive queue when he was designing Pirates for Florida. Because he was designing for the land that it was in. Of course, this should have been in the conversation last week. It's bleeding over. But he was designing for the land that now it was going to be in. There was no bayou. There was no transition from New Orleans to the Caribbean. You were already there. And so he felt the way to build that anticipation and tell that first immersive part of the story would be through the queue. So I think it kind of starts the legacy of immersive queues.
Sure.
I think kind of starts with Pirates of the Caribbean in Florida. And maybe Haunted Mansion. I think it actually starts with Haunted Mansion. But the way that Indiana Jones's queue works is very similar in my mind to like the way that the Pirates queue in Florida works.
Yeah, and Tony also said, I forgot to mention this as well, just how Jungle Cruise is right next to the outdoor queue area. That's another great piece of like just atmosphere that really adds to the experience as a whole.
I agree.
Yeah, just another little tidbit there. But yeah, the queue for Indiana Jones, it's really like, I mean, we've talked about the queue, I'm sure, of Indiana Jones. We've beaten this topic to death in other podcasts. In our Historyland video, I'm sure we even talked about that. So yeah, it is worth noting.
I don't think so, actually.
Did we? We might not. I can't.
I don't think I spend a lot of time talking about that. The Historyland video focuses on what it brought to Adventureland.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked at length about the queue, I'm sure, in previous episodes of the podcast. So we don't want to necessarily hang too long on this subject here. But yeah, like I said, it is worth noting that the queue is, for me, one of the best parts of the attraction, the tenseness, the atmosphere as a whole. It's really weird to me. Someone said in chat, it's almost Disney World like the queue is. Isn't it weird to sort of think like that? I don't know. Like, I guess you would think of immersive queues like this to be more at Walt Disney World. I don't know. I just feel like that's a weird sort of mindset to have Disneyland.
I think content dictates form. If there's an attraction that's built that needs to be a part of the experience, and there's actually very similar to the grotto and the drops in Pirates that we talked about last week. There's also there's a technical reason why there is that immersive queue to begin with. It's because the showroom is, you can see it. It's outside of the park. And so you literally have to walk from where you are in Adventureland to that corner, outside of the park where the showroom is. So the way that they filled that queue, to fill that, technical bump was to make it a part of the experience, in a very similar way that we get the grotto caves, caverns sequence in Pirates of the Caribbean and drops to begin with. So, I'd like to think, that was just a part of the. So it's weird. Disney World, I don't associate any park particularly with immersive queues.
Sure,
but that's a really interesting point, and perhaps people do associate Disney World with immersive queues is because theme park design was already elevated to that point by the time Imagineers were designing experiences for Disney World. But not every ride in Disney World has nor needs an immersive queue as well.
Yeah, no, I guess that's fair. And speaking on, I guess we should move on to the technical achievements of this attraction, because like Jeremy just mentioned, you do have to leave the park boundaries to actually experience the attraction. And Alex even pointed out to me as well when we were getting off the tram. I think he said that if you wait in a certain area outside, you can hear the sound, like the base of the boulder from outside of the park, from like the tram.
If you listen, you can hear that boulder every few seconds or so. Yeah, you can hear it. It's pretty loud, actually, if you take the time to notice it.
It's amazing, though, because...
Pretty cool.
Yeah, because I guess just going back onto the necessity to have the extended immersive queue, wouldn't it be just the weirdest thing in the world if they had enough room to build the showroom inside the park boundaries and they saw no need to fill the queue with this long queue to fill it with all this immersion? Wouldn't that be just like a weird, dark timeline that we would live in?
Well, it would be a very different experience. And one thing Tony Baxter really wanted to maintain, because a lot of the concern at the time was, and this is something Tony Baxter is so brilliant at, is making sure each new addition to the park fits the overall feeling of the park. One of his fundamental philosophies is to design specifically for the park that you're designing for, and that it should feel like it was always there.
Yes.
And so if you were in Adventureland, the smallest land in the park, and you came across this ginormous structure, it just would feel so out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do think Galaxy's Edge feels out of place for that part. I don't think it blends well in the park at all.
Mm-hmm.
But so he was smart. You come across this kind of secret, kind of small temple nestled in the back of the land, and then we're able to exit the park and have a fuller, more immersive and huge experience. But aesthetically, and visually, on a thematic level and visually, it feels like it was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's such a master at that, and I don't know if many people are today who design things for the parks.
No, I agree, and I do remember that.
Yeah,
I do remember that being one of the big sort of moments that we did touch on in the Historyland episode was Tony Baxter talking about how, like Jeremy said, making the attractions fit the lands that they're in, making it like they were always there. And yeah, I do agree. Tony Baxter, big genius man. He should definitely come back to run Imagineering. But yeah, back to the technical achievements of this attraction, because there are a lot of specific technical achievements that I would like to touch on this attraction. Of course, you can always talk about the custom ride vehicles that they made for this attraction. What is it? The EMVs, I think, is what they're called. Yeah, the sort of motion simulator, which they built upon, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, they built upon the technology used in Star Tours, the sort of big motion simulator type stuff. They built upon that, miniaturized it, made it specifically for this attraction. And it really is one of the greatest show ride vehicles that they've ever created, besides, like, I guess, the classic boat ride, I feel like. But yeah, in context of, I mean, nothing beats just like the Pirates boat ride.
Nothing beats. I honestly believe that content dictates form, and I think a lot of people expect their ride vehicle to be very complex now as a part of it, and I think content dictates form. An attraction like Indiana Jones, it should feel like you're in this Jeep going on this, chaotic adventure, but at the same time, Pirates doesn't need a huge mechanism to take in that, and neither does Haunted Mansion. So, but this is really the first of its kind in terms of ride vehicles. I mean, people just must have been like shocked, blown absolutely away, because before then it was omnimovers and boats or moving theaters. It wasn't, and I'm sure people felt the same way at the same time. Similar technology in a different way being used for Tower of Terror. Yeah, and again, it is I don't know. It's hard to encapsulate just in general how complex I'm sure it was to figure out how to make that vehicle. And again, it is one of the best parts of the ride because, of course, as you guys know, motion simulator on top of the ride vehicle. Moving on. I would also like to touch on the specific moment that happens that I'm sure everybody talks about, that I'm sure everybody knows about. The boulder scene, which I feel like for me is way tops the everything else, because the boulder. If you guys don't know, the scene where your ride vehicle stops, you see Indy hanging, and then the boulder. You see the boulder rolling towards you, or do you? Wink, wink. I can't remember the specific story. I can't remember the specific story of how Tony Baxter came to think about how to move the room instead of the boulder. He always has such great stories about how he was randomly like doing something, and then, this is why he's a great Imagineer. And then it gives him an idea of how to come across a technical aspect in the thing. So anyway, we'll explain it a little bit, the best we can. Basically, it feels like your vehicle is backing up.
Because the boulder's rolling towards you.
As the boulder is starts to roll toward you. Oh, it was a car wash.
That's what it was.
He was in a car wash.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Yes, he was in a car wash, and he noticed that he kept moving forward, but the way that the room was moving, that it gave him an optical illusion that he was either stationary or also moving backward. And so he came up with the idea because of that if he moved the room forward, it would give the illusion as you're moving the vehicle, or something like that. If you moved the room while you're moving the vehicle incrementally, it would actually give the effect that your vehicle was actually backing up to escape the boulder. But it's not. It's the whole room that's actually moving to give you the illusion that your vehicle is backing up because the vehicle could only go one way. So it's such a great moment. And actually, Tony, it's one of my favorite places to get stuck.
It is.
Because you can kind of take the moment to look around and sort of see something new about how the room operates. So I love getting stuck there. But one of my favorite effects that is no more, and it's an extinct effect, my favorite one when I was a kid, was, speaking of rooms moving, that was not the only room to move.
Oh, that's right.
In Indiana Jones. You'll notice at the beginning of the attraction, you round that first corner and you have a selection of 3 different doors, 3 chambers of destiny to go into, to either drink from the fountain of youth to stay young and beautiful forever, or see the future, or money, rich, which we could all. And
I would pick the money room, you guys.
I would too. Well, maybe. I mean, who knows? So nowadays, they do a lot of cool projection mapping stuff where just you always go through the center door, but the projection mapping changes what chamber you're actually going in. It's kind of cool, but in my mind, it doesn't beat what it used to be.
Sure.
Which was that the actual room would shift so that the center door, the door you always go in through, either appears to be the left-hand door, the center door, or the right door. And interesting. I just put undefined variables was saying what doors we are or what doors we would go into. Anyway.
Either way, I want money.
And
I go to the money door, you guys.
And so it was my favorite thing when I was younger to anticipate which door we were going into. Was it going to be the left door where we'd go to the I forget if the left was youth or future, but it was exciting. That just a little detail like that of which door you go through, it really gives you the illusion that there are 3 different chambers, and it was so good. And I so wish they would be able to bring that back. I think there's actually a reason why they physically can't, unfortunately. But I loved it, and it would be so exciting because for some reason, like, I felt like I always got treasure, just always went through the center door. So whenever I would get the Fountain of Youth or the Wisdom, I would be like, oh my God, it's like almost a completely different experience. So that's something. The projection mapping is cool, but I don't think it really activates the imagination in the same way as when you really feel like you're going in a different chamber every time.
Sure. I don't think I ever got to experience that shifting of the rooms, at least from what I can remember. So I only know the projection mapping.
Yeah, there was a long period of time where that effect was broken, and then when they brought so you just always went into treasure. But when they brought the projection mapping in, they brought back the idea that you're going into different chambers, but I don't think it's as effective actually as when you actually looked like you were going in a different door.
Sure, and I guess we can sort of touch on maybe later on in the discussion, like the technical problems that I guess this attraction has had, because I'm sure a lot of people can attest that this is one of those attractions that always seems to be to break down, or one of those attractions that always has some sort of effect, maybe broken or something's not working. So maybe we can touch on that later on as well. Yeah, and I guess we can sort of move on to the actual attraction itself once you board the ride vehicle. Sala, pretty sure that's his name. I haven't seen the movie in a while. I did it. Played by the actual person who played him from the movie, I believe. So isn't that really cool?
In the if he appears in the pre-show physically, yes,
Sure,
but
yeah.
the voiceover is not.
No, Jeremy's right. It's not actually his voice. He does a good job, whoever does the impersonation of him.
It's a great
yeah.
voiceover, yeah.
Yeah, so when you board your Jeep, I guess that's what it's called. When you board your Jeep, you round the corner into the chambers. And I'd like to touch on the second turn that you make out of the room once you go past Indiana Jones and you see the big sort of extravagant money shot of the big sort of I guess it's like a broken statue of Mara with like the flame shooting up and then the lasers, everything.
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest parts of the ride for me. Once you, like I said, pass Indy, and then the anticipation has been building up from that point. You round the corner, and then you see like I said, the big money shot reveal of the whole room, everything there from the bridge, and then just everything else. And yeah, again, this attraction is really one of those ones where I feel like I could ride it 500 times in a row. Maybe if I get like motion sick or something, I'd have to take a break. But just in terms of like enjoyment of the attraction, it is one of those ones where it is one of those repeat attractions where I would like to try and do it multiple times in the day just because of how fun the attraction is. And you're not even moving, I don't think, that fast in the ride vehicles, but the moving of the simulator of the ride vehicle makes it seem like you're moving so much faster through these different rooms of the ride. And I do feel like that is a big strength of the attraction as a whole. The pacing, at least in like the current version, I feel like there's some spots where there's like maybe you hang a bit for too long in a certain area. But yeah, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the overall ride experience, the attraction itself of Indiana Jones Adventure?
It's a blast. It kind of does everything it's supposed to do, fills you with adventure and puts you through peril. It's a lot of fun. I think it actually, if I had a critique, it kind of feels like there's too much at once.
Sure,
but I think revealing that showroom is, I feel like we take it for granted today, but that really is so magnificent a showroom, you know. It is really cool. And one thing I've always loved to do is when I was younger, I don't do it anymore because I just kind of like to sit and actually enjoy the ride. But I used to like turn around and see when the next Jeep was coming around. I liked seeing where the other Jeeps were in the ride we were in the showroom and stuff like that. And I always used to love, I wanted to sit on the side where the snake came at me. I think I still do that habitually because that's what I liked to do when I was younger. So yeah, it's just it's fun. Yeah.
And before we move on, we do have one voicemail that I'd like to get to here. It's a short one, but again, 575-386-5814 if you guys would like to leave your thoughts on the Indiana Jones Adventure attraction. Let's go ahead and play this here.
I just want to apologize to anybody who rides Indiana Jones with me because I can't help but stare into the eyes of Mara. So, again, my apologies. So, all right, take care.
I'm sure we're all guilty at some point. We may have killed a few people because we stared into the eyes, but you know, it's worth it for the experience, you guys. I mean,
definitely.
Exactly. Where do we move on from this? We have the ride experience itself. We have the queue. We have Where can we move on to from here, Mr. Jeremy? Where do you think
we kind of started the conversation talking about its impact. Sure. So I don't even know if we have there to go unless you feel like there's more to talk about.
Well, I guess we can talk
impact.
about I guess the fact that this ride was quote unquote cloned over to Animal Kingdom for Dinosaur.
Oh right, yeah.
So that
sure, yeah. So as a ride system and track layout, I think it was kind of had a short-term influence in the sense that in Animal Kingdom, just a couple years down the line, and I don't really know. I have to research the specific history of Countdown to Extinction to see if it was just like they had to rush to do it.
Yeah, sure.
But basically, they took the ride system, they took the track layout, and they just plopped that down in Central Florida and made Countdown to Extinction, obviously with a totally different theme. And the cool thing about it is that really shows off the capabilities of the ride vehicle, because the way they program the cars, it makes it feel like you're on a completely different ride, because the vehicles are moving. It feel like they're moving at a different speed. They're jerking at different times. They're doing different movements, which really shows off the simulation abilities of the EMVs. That being said, a fun thing to do when next you go on Countdown to Extinction, if you have had the fortune to have gone in Indiana Jones as well, what I like to do is visually in my head be like, where am I in Indiana Jones? But I will tell you, the EMVs are so good at what they do that it's hard to keep track of where you are in the Indiana Jones track.
Sure.
So yeah.
And I guess we can even mention the influence, Jeremy mentioned at the top of the segment, but the influence on not just Dinosaur, that attraction, but other attractions. We mentioned something along the lines of Tower of Terror, where like the immersiveness can be compared on par similarly to Indiana Jones. But even moving on to Rise of the Resistance, where I feel like this Indiana Jones...
direct descendant.
Yeah, direct descendant. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Rise of the Resistance, direct descendant of Indiana Jones Adventure. You do see the combination of the two ride systems, maybe not in the same way that you do see with like the simulator on top of the ride vehicle.
Yeah, not necessarily in terms of ride system, but in genre.
Sure. Thrill, dark ride. We need like to coin a term.
Because it is a different ride. It's a completely different ride system. But it does have a very similar sense of flow, done obviously with our amazing modern technology of today. So it's even more heightened and even a little more immersive, a little more realistic than what Indiana Jones could do back in the 90s. So you have a queue that is definitely a part of the ride experience. You go through a very similar type of story. You get into a place that you're not supposed to be because something messes up. You go through a whole chaotic sort of escape adventure, and then you overcome it. You're patted on the back. Good job. You handled that better than anyone. Off you go to the rest of the park. So it is a direct descendant of the type of ride that Indiana Jones is. That Rise of the Resistance could not be had it not been for Indiana Jones Adventure.
Yeah, and I was just thinking off the top of my head how some modern immersive queues always seem to have like those videos that play before like during the queue, like to give like the exposition dump. Like in Rise of the Resistance, you have Rey like in the projection. Right. I was trying to think like, Indiana Jones doesn't have that, but it sort of does when you have Sala talking in like the safety spiel. He sort of gives that little brief rundown of like what you're going to be experiencing. So I was thinking, Indiana Jones doesn't have that, but they do.
So it does and it doesn't. Something the Imagineers really are obsessed with today is like actual narrative, beginning, middle, and end, plot. And attractions are for the most part largely a plotless medium. But that doesn't mean not rich in story. Attractions are enormously rich in story, but plot is not always the most effective way to tell those stories. Something Imagineers have been obsessed with in the past decade has been, can we actually have a plot in the attraction form? I think Rise of the Resistance is a step in that direction. I don't know how successful it is. At that in general, at that aspect, it's a very successful attraction in all other aspects. But Indiana Jones doesn't really have that. You don't have the classic like, and that's where you come in spiel. That line that I'm sick of in attractions that try to include you. You are already included by being there, and it doesn't need that. For some reason, you have a a sense of why you're there, of purpose, why you have fallen in here, without having to be told why.
Yeah.
In Indiana Jones. So it still takes the element of atmospheric and environmental approach to storytelling than something like Rise of the Resistance does.
Yeah. I think another one, when you mentioned that, that's where you come in. That's sort of what's that dumb Guardians of the Galaxy ride in? What's that ride called? In
Mission Breakout.
Yeah, that's like the first example that came to my mind when it comes to that kind
it
of
happens
stuff too.
there. It happens in Mission Space. It happens in it happens in Flight of Passage. It happens. It's like the modern trend of like, and here's where you come in. Okay, are you listening? This is why you're here. This is the thing we have set up for why you specifically are here, and you have to do this, this, and this. Okay, are you ready to sit back and enjoy your ride? I didn't think so, but no, but that I'm exaggerating with that. No, Flight of Passage, you kind of forget all about that, and then you're just sitting there enjoying the incredible experience. And same with Mission Space. That's the thing. That's why I don't feel like that aspect of these kind of newer types of narrative attractions are there yet, because like you can bombard people with exposition about why you specifically are there, but at the end of the day, what you walk away with is the experience of being on it and the atmosphere and the stuff we know is the difference of what separates an attraction experience from a more linear narrative type of experience.
Sure. Well, I guess before we end the discussion, we can maybe briefly touch here on the technical breakdowns, I guess, of this attraction, because this attraction has held up well over the years, however many plus years it's been since it opened. But like we've mentioned throughout the episode, Jeremy mentioned the rotating rooms where you go in doesn't work anymore. It's projection mapping now. There's a lot of other smaller effects that don't work throughout the ride when they used to when it opened. Some of the even Q effects don't work as reliably as they used to when it first opened. And I think one notable example, like the ice machine one. Someone said that that one that everybody mentions where like the ice is supposed to be falling on top of your
the ice. Everyone wants to talk about the ice machine. So the ice machine was you'll notice when you first sort of start to enter the big showroom. Okay, Siri, you want to talk about the ice machine? Or
I don't know where she came from. She just butted in there.
So what would happen is you'll notice there's a laser that is shot out of Mara's eye. Crumbling monument of Mara in the distance shoots a laser, and you hear crumbling rocks. Well, what supposedly, and we have proof now of this in the early days, very, very early days of the attraction, what would happen is it would actually look like rocks were crumbling right in front of you, as if that laser actually hit rocks that were supposed to smash and crush you. What that was, though, is it was basically a ice on a conveyor belt that would then dump, timed out for each vehicle. What happened was it was just, I don't know, Alex could probably explain this way better than I could, because it's been a while since I've read or talked about this. It just didn't work. The ice would melt on the track, and it just it was just a setup for something that would be absolutely not able to stand the test of time.
Sure. My ice machine gets blocked even in my refrigerator, so
I wonder if there's a way for them to bring that back with projection mapping, something with, if you have fog in that area, you could probably do something really cool with projection mapping there. But that's a lost effect. I hear tell that this attraction still runs on Windows 95.
I have also heard that as well.
Which a lot of the Alex, I think, has said, because I think we've talked about this before. I'm having deja vu. I don't want to but I also don't want to put words in Alex's mouth if I'm wrong, because he'll start messaging me right now. a lot of the reason for like the ride breaking down has a lot to do with like vehicle stacking. Like if the timing of load and unload is not precise, it actually will trigger an emergency shutdown. So that happens frequently, actually, which is also why when you go on the ride, oftentimes the load area is like, it's like, battle practice. Those employees are like, okay, party at 2. Is there a party at 2? Get over there, row 5. How many's in your party? Row 1 now. It's like, that's an exaggeration, obviously, but you can see that they're like, okay, go next group. Okay, row down, boom, bada,
They've
boom.
been trained well
because they know that like if the timing is off, boom, it's just going to throw off the operation for the attraction for the rest of the day. So yeah.
Windows 98, 95, whichever one it is.
95.
95.
Windows
It's
95.
Crazy. I mean, I'm sure, I do remember discussing this as well. I'm sure it'd just be too much of a hassle for them to update that to Windows 10.
Upgrade.
They'd have to
I'm
update.
Pretty sure they have to. I think Haunted Mansion now runs on Windows XP, which means they must have updated that sometime in the early 2000s. So Windows XP stands the test of time. Great operating system. Yeah. So yeah.
We'll see. You guys will be the first to let you know if they do end up updating Indiana Jones to Windows 10. But until then, there's also one final little I think it's a technical aspect here. There's one specific room. I brought this up before. Alex has told me about it before. The bat room, I think, where you just stop, just complete darkness. And I guess there's like audible bats flying around you. Oh, yeah. That's one of the parts of the attraction that always takes me out of the experience. I hate that part. I do. It's just, I don't know. It's just darkness.
See,
and then you can.
Alex
gave a good explanation as to why it was supposed to be
build
like that.
Anticipation. You're there. I do understand what you mean, though. It's hard sometimes to not feel like, what happened?
Yeah.
But especially because like the music like cuts out.
That's right. It does.
And like
it does.
And you're like, did something happen?
Mm-hmm.
But no, I love it because it builds anticipation. Sometimes you're there a little longer. Sometimes you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a way of not stacking vehicles. So it's almost like a block section in a way because there's a vehicle right ahead who has to clear the boulder sequence and the room has to be able to reset because it's just a quick journey down the dart room and then the boulder room has to be ready for you. So there's a technical aspect to that as well.
Yeah, I do remember Alex bringing that up as well, which I guess we mentioned when we talked about what's that Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway where we discussed the Daisy scene. There's those specific scenes where you have to
I love that scene though.
I think it's a great scene too, but in terms of I feel like they could do a better job as to implementing that into that scene because at least just for me it is one of those scenes where it just takes me completely out.
Yeah, Matt, can you believe it? Just the two of us, we've almost run 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, you guys, we did it, and I think that's actually going to wrap up.
I don't think it needs to go on longer than that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to tell you.
My friend was yelling at me from downstairs. We're making chicken tendies when you're done, so guys, I'll share some chicken tendies with all you guys. But anyways,
You won't.
I send your addresses in the comments section. Just kidding. That's a horrible.
Don't do
that, please. It will be a short stream, I said. For 2 hours.
I knew it. It's funny when he said, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do a short stream today anyway. I was like, yeah, so 2 hours. That's kind of, and he was like 2 hours. I was like, okay, an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's kind of average.
We used to have short streams, you guys. I don't know what happened.
It's probably my fault.
I mean, it's both our faults. I'll place the blame on both of us. But anyways, thank you all. Well, that's been the Indiana Jones adventure, you guys. Wish Alex were here to give his insight as a Mr. Technical Man, Mr. Cast member. Alex has provided a lot of great insight for me for this attraction in the past, not just on the podcasts, but when I visit with him in the parks as well. Of course, like I said, he told me about that spot in the tram exiting unloading area where you can hear the boulder from outside the park. great spot. I'm sure the cast members won't let you linger on there for too long, so, or maybe they will. I don't know. I appreciate the long streams. Thank you. I appreciate that you appreciate that. But, yeah, again, if you guys haven't watched our episode, Historyland, it's kind of an old one. One of our sort of, I guess, like beta tests for the series. I guess you could call it that.
It's post, I consider like Space Mountain a turning point.
Yeah.
So like, it's post Space Mountain. It was the one after Space Mountain. I think it's pretty good. It tells us very specific. It doesn't go into everything. I think it's kind of a flaw of it, but it tells a specific story about Indiana Jones and the rest of Disneyland that I think is interesting. And you will expect more Historyland, thorough, deeper than ever, more entertaining than ever, more interesting, more moving. Historyland.
Guys, you have no idea how excited I am to start working on Historyland. We got to get these Journey Through Animation episodes out, because that's the one thing that's been
there'll be new series starting to roll out very, very soon.
Yeah.
There will be. I don't think there'll be any issues. There will be the second episode of Journey Through Animation coming out Tuesday.
Yes.
Right, Matt?
Tomorrow when the episode drops. Yeah. Tomorrow on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, because it's Monday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Tuesday we'll be talking about Pinocchio. And those will be rolling out every other week. I think steadily. We've been very good at stocking up.
Yeah.
Working on those episodes. And come May, expect Memory Voyage to start rolling out. That'll hopefully be an interesting experiment. And
experiment is a key word, because
we're aiming, guys, early June. There'll be some new Historylands for you every other week. And we're very excited about the future of that series. And hopefully I didn't say too much. It's good to remind everyone that the stream is not the only thing that we do.
The last
on this
announcement
channel,
we put out was in November about this kind of stuff.
I know.
So it's good to remind everybody.
we're so bad. We have moments where we're both on the same page, productive wise, and we're getting things done. Or we're both just MIA, like I don't have the energy. Or one of us is like, we're getting it done, and the other one's like, I don't think I have the energy. So I think because of this virus, we're both kind of on the same page about getting all this stuff done.
Yeah.
So expect some exciting things this spring and summer.
Very excited, you guys. Let's see. Tony said, will there be a poll for the next attraction? There will be a poll on Twitter for the next attraction. Maybe we should, I'm trying to figure out a way to pick which attractions get put in the poll. So maybe we can have the people in chat sort of say which attractions they want, and we'll sort of pool together the majority and have people vote
Would be interesting is, so let's take, we did Indiana Jones, that one. Let's take the second and third place of the last poll. So the next poll will include Disneyland Railroad and It's a Small World, and then add another attraction, see which one wins.
Okay.
And it'll kind of be a battle of all of those attractions, and there'll always be a new option in there as well to compete. So I think that'll make it interesting.
Sure. I like that. Someone said do some DCA. Maybe if you guys want us to talk about what's like a good... We can talk about Mickey's Fun Wheel for 2 hours, I think. Mr. Toad. Cars Land would be a good one. Anyways, we'll figure it out, you guys.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
And I believe on that note, that is going to wrap up this week's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. Thank you all for coming to today's episode as well. Jeremy's Twitter will be down in the description as always, as well as, all the other general social media links. And again, 575-386-5814 if you have any thoughts on Indiana Jones Adventure. We'll listen to those voicemails starting next week on the recording for next episode. Jeremy, do you have anything you'd like to say before we close off the episode?
Stay at home, guys.
There it is.
It'll be so much better in the life. If you want to get back to work as soon as possible, if you want to get back to gathering at places as soon as possible, listen to the medical professionals. Stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
And stay informed, but listen to the right sources.
Yes. Guys, we've been saying this for weeks now. You have to listen to us at some point. I mean, they don't have to, but... Anyway, you guys know the deal. Thank you all for coming out to today's episode, and as always, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.